Hi, it's Larold. We've spent more time playing the Midnight Alpha as it continues to get updates every week. I finally sunk my teeth into a bit of Brewmaster Monk gameplay, and we finally have our first preview of it from the Midnight Alpha for you here today. I'll go ahead and start with the thesis statement, which is a great opening for any essay or video or whatever, and say that Brewmaster Monk is really promising, but it's also pretty unfinished. This is fine, it's an alpha, it's not the completed product, so that's okay. But whether it winds up being amazing, or great, or good, or disappointing, or just okay, or whatever, really is going to depend on what Blizzard does with the things that are still, as of yet, undecided. So let's get into it, but first be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Join our Discord as well. We're talking a lot about Midnight, Legion Remix, PoE 1 League coming up, PoE 2, all of that stuff. So come join our community. Alright, so I think the very first thing to discuss is, kind of the classic Monk thing, which would be bugs. There are some big swing for the fences changes happening. One of those would be the Blackout combo has been pared down, and this is kind of like in keeping with the whole philosophy for just a lot of the changes for the class. They've pared down a lot of unnecessary complexity. Like, I can say straight up, I've been asking for this for, it feels like 10 years, probably over 5. Blackout combo really has no purpose except for maybe empowering Keg Smash, but then otherwise just empowering Tiger Palm. So having it have the other different, like, spoiler versions of Blackout combo where you could, like, use it to do anything else that was totally worthless was just bad. This has all been removed, right? Tiger Palm and Keg Smash are the only things that Blackout combo can empower. So we can go ahead and show that off here. I can also show off the, like, new, essentially weak auras replacement, and like you can see, here's the Blackout combo buff, and then if I hit Celestial Infusion, it actually still takes the Blackout combo buff away. I think I'd have to take some damage to get it with Purifying Brew, but like, yeah, okay, so it's not working with Breath of Fire, but it is still stealing your Blackout combo with Celestial Infusion. Obviously, that's not great. Honestly, that's like the only big bug that I've really noticed along the way, which for Monk is actually a pretty big accomplishment to not be like a bug extravaganza, so I would take that as a whole point here. Like, I think that the amount of bugs that I've seen so far has actually been surprisingly and pleasantly very low. So in terms of the rotation changes that are happening to Brewmaster Monk, it's having a lot of skills paired away. First of all, Rising Sun Kick is just completely gone. It's just not in the tree over here at all. Now Stagger and Paralysis and Soothing Mist are your top keystone, or your top buttons there, your top talents there available. Rising Sun Kick is just completely gone from the game entirely. Additionally, Weapons of Order has been removed, and this is where a lot of that uncertainty comes into play, because while Weapons of Order is gone, a lot of the talents that linked up to Weapons of Order, in like the Shadowpan tree, for example, they still point to Weapons of Order. Obviously, they're not gonna ship it with Weapons of Order being not in the game for Brewmaster Monk, and then also having a hero spec built around it. But what are they gonna do? Who knows? Right now, you get Weapons of Order cooldown reduction on efficient training, you get Weapons of Order summoning an extra guy to help you fight whenever you use it, you get extra Flurry Strike activation during Weapons of Order. There's just a lot of things that are really uncertain here. So I think the decision to remove Weapons of Order is, like, actually very smart. I've really wanted this. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's like the Shadowlands Alpha, but certainly since Dragonflight and beyond, I've really just wanted all of those old Shadowlands Monk abilities to go away. I never really liked any of them, and seeing that finally get taken out and having more of an emphasis being placed on the core Monk rotation is really good. Another thing that this has done by removing Rising Sun Kick is it has opened up the ability to, and I could kind of show this off here in the rotation, have enough rotational space for Breath of Fire and Rushing Jadewind to both coexist, and there not be like a million different keybinds that you have to manage, or like so much keybind friction, rotational friction, that it causes you to basically have to let something sit on cooldown for long periods of time. So you're able to kind of do just like this. You're able to make use of Breath of Fire and Rushing Jadewind and keep Blackout Kick on cooldown, and then have some other skills in there as well, Chi Burst and Celestial Infusion and Expel Harm, and all of that rotational stuff that you would normally need. So the rotation is simplified, but in a way that really just removes some of the more irritating aspects of rotational friction. You're not really losing, I think, any single target DPS. If anything, it feels like it has gone up. We don't have damage meters, or at least in the time that we were testing, we didn't have damage meters in the game at that point. But just going out and testing in the world, you know, in the pre-made character green gear that they give us, which we were scaled down to effectively the equivalent of wearing like a bunch of quest screens, you know, you could kind of just do the test of like go gather a bunch of enemies and then DPS them all down and feel like, did it take a while? And the answer was no. It felt like everything was dying really quickly, just while going around and DPSing in what is essentially just a bunch of garbage quest screens. So that's a really good opening, promising look, right? Now there have been some other cooldown changes as well. Invoke Nizhao is just a baseline 2-minute cooldown. There doesn't seem to be any way to reduce the cooldown that's built into the tree now, and you're not required to take Walk with the Ox to get it. They're completely separate. Nizhao is now over here in the southeast, bottom right corner of the spec tree. The class tree is mostly unchanged for the most part. Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic are gone, and now you just have Dance of the Wind and Yulon's Grace. This honestly isn't that big of a deal. Like, this is fine. They were both useful defensive cooldowns. I'm not going to argue that it's, like, absolutely a non-factor, but I think for a lot of situations, just having Dance of the Wind and Yulon's Grace and then kind of being tuned around not having Diffuse or Dampen, it works pretty well, especially given how strong Celestial Infusion is now in the, like, War Within Season 3 and beyond future of Brewmaster Monk. It's basically taken over Celestial Brew, and that's totally fine. Exploding Keg is also getting, basically just a real shot in the arm. You have these two options here down below it, Fuel on the Fire, which looks cool, or Empty the Cellar, which allows you to Exploding Keg, and then you can press it again, and let's see if I can get into combat with some other, there we go, some other statues, training dummies around here. You can press it again, and it'll throw out more kegs. So it does seem like they're adding a lot more stank onto Exploding Keg, and my gut kind of tells me that the front runner of what they're going to be putting all of the Weapons of Order eggs into the basket of is Exploding Keg. So if my guess is correct, Efficient Training, Wisdom of the Wall, Weapons of the Wall, things like that would all point towards Exploding Keg and work that way. The issue here is some of these don't really make sense. Like, there is, you know, you think about Weapons of the Wall, one of the current Brewmaster Monk tier set bonuses as Shadowpan, getting Flurry Strikes to activate every 150 energy spent during Weapons of Order. There is no during Exploding Keg, so I think there's also a real possibility, again, this one as well, giving you a Shadowpan fighter to assist you while your Exploding Keg is active. Like, none of that really makes sense, so I think there's also a very distinct possibility that they keep all of this functionality the same and just point it over to Nizhao, which does mean that Nizhao becomes basically a mandatory talent. Not the end of the world, he does pretty decent damage, but it doesn't have amazing uptime. You know, it's 25 seconds every 2 minutes, so this is like a lot of power that would be invested in a talent that kind of feels janky, and also, you know, it's a pet as a tank. You're summoning a pet that's doing a pretty substantial amount of damage, not generating threat for you, has all of the limitations of World of Warcraft's pet minion system, so, you know, not the most amazing thing in the world to have that be the possibility either. Now, with that being said, there are some really good changes in the talent tree. I'm not going to go through every single talent in the tree, but I will point out some of the ones that I really like here. Swift as a Coursing River, giving you 15% move speed and auto attack speed whenever you drink a brew. Like, that does feel pretty good. That is pretty noticeable. Storm Stout's Keg, also now giving you 10 yards of extra reach on your Keg Smash. Like, that's pretty cool. You can Keg Smash from quite a long ways away. Let's see how far I can actually Keg Smash that, that training dummy from. Yeah, pretty long distance Keg Smash throw, which is pretty nice. There's this choice node down here, Awakening Spirit, that gives you Purifying Brew, basically just gives you a shield, which is really awesome. Or you can get Vital Flame, which will give you 50% of all your fire and nature damage dealt counts as healing. You don't really do a lot of fire and nature damage. You have Breath of Fire, and then potentially you can spec into this talent right here, Celestial Flames, which I really don't think is all that great, but it is very visually cool looking, so it has been redesigned from the previous version, which was really bad, to make it so that when you drink a brew, you have a 30% chance to give yourself a 6-second buff, and all that buff does is that it applies to the talent above it, which is a classic choice node between Special Delivery and Rushing Jadewind. Right now I'm playing Rushing Jadewind because I just think it's more, like, fun to press a keybind or whatever, and basically when that proc occurs, it just does 30% increased radius, and then also fire damage. It looks cool. Like, you can see this is Rushing Jadewind, and let's see if I can chug a brew and get it to proc. There we go. Looks sick, right? The issue is, I mean, I guess it's converting from physical to fire, so it's not going to get mitigated by armor, but it's not like a real damage increase. It's not really doing a lot functionality-wise. Also, there's an issue with Rushing Jadewind where this may be intentional, but you can see the cooldown and the duration are exactly the same, so you can't maintain 100% Rushing Jadewind uptime anymore. This is something Blizzard played around with, I want to say, like in BFA or something, and it basically made RJW, like, pretty unusable for a long time until they buffed it up to full length duration. And obviously, yeah, I would love to see Rushing Jadewind be brought back to, you know, like 50% longer duration than its cooldown, because it definitely feels undertuned. You know, it's doing like 80 damage, which we have been stat squished, but just by comparison, here's a Blackout Kick, 5100 damage, and then here's Rushing Jadewind ticking for 80. It just feels like a really weak global cooldown right now. Alright, so those are kind of the biggest things that are changing with the talent tree. I just want to kind of show off a couple more things here. First, I will say the Storm Stout's last keg, the initial rewording of the way that they had kind of shown it off was it made it look like it might not have 2 charges for Keg Smash anymore, but it still does. It just gives you this insane, like, Steph Curry range here where, you know, 25 yards, which that's 75 feet. I feel like that doesn't feel like 75 feet, but, you know, whatever. That's actually quite a lot longer than Steph Curry. He wishes he had Lerald's range. But Fuel in the Fire is a new talent underneath Exploding Keg as well. I already showed off Empty the Cellar, where you can basically double tap it and get like a bunch of extra kegs. Fuel in the Fire got a pretty big buff because the tuning on it was very bad, but it looks very cool. You throw out Exploding Keg, and then on your next 2 Keg Smash casts, you can see it kind of casts this whirl of fire around them after the Exploding Keg. So I don't think it's as good as Empty the Cellar generally, but, like, it's cool looking. There are a couple of other talents in here that I think are, like, pretty bad. Keg Volley, Exploding Keg will reset the cooldown of Keg Smash, 1 extra Keg Smash per minute. I think that's pretty bad. Mighty Stomp as well, while active. Nizao, you could you can press Nizao a second time, and then it'll do a knock-up. Essentially, it's a 2-minute cooldown on Thunder Storm from Shaman, but as a keystone talent, and the same going with Keg Volley. I think these are like really underwhelming keystone talents, but you know, 5 to 10% mastery out of Heart of the Ox is numerically pretty good. Storm Stout's last keg is insanely good. I think Empty the Cellar is really good, even if Fuel in the Fire is maybe not so great. And I think the rest of the kit for Brewmaster Monk is still looking really good. Before I move on, let me just talk about the Apex talent for Brewmaster Monk. Every spec in the game's getting a new little talent at the bottom of the tree. It's basically going to be tuned so that it's a must-have for every spec, and here's Brewmaster Monk's. It's bring me another, then bring me another twice, and then bring me another a third time. So Bring Me Another makes it so that whenever you drink a brew, you know, Fortifying Brew, I guess, maybe Black Ox Brew, although I haven't tested to see, you know, cooldown's pretty long, so it's hard to tell. Purifying Brew, Fortifying Brew, Celestial Infusion counts as a brew. You know, whenever you drink one of those, you have a chance to get an empty barrel, which then you throw out with your next Keg Smash. Let's see if I can get it off of a Celestial Infusion. I did, and you can see, yeah, you throw it out, it throws out a barrel, it does some damage. Sometimes the server lags a little bit while you're doing it. You also get some physical damage increase out of the second point. Cool. And you get some ricochet, some bouncing AoE. I did notice that I felt like I did more damage in AoE than just like at single target, which is nice because that comes from that. The final bonus here is really the one that's like the money maker, the big selling point here. Whenever you cast Fortifying Brew or Celestial Infusion, you tap a fresh keg, throwing your 2 nearest allies and also yourself a drink, and then you also give yourself an empty barrel to do more AoE damage. So I love all the AoE damage aspect of this. I do think it's more fun to do more damage than to take less damage. I like all of this. I think it's good. But I really like the refreshing drink. You know, looking at my health pool right now, like if I press this button, it's like 15% or so of my health, 15-18% of my health that I'm getting, and I'm able to throw that, not just get like that pretty decent heal on myself, but also throw that onto nearby allies. And as you can see from the way that the refreshing drink is written, it waits until you take damage in order to apply that heal over time. So this is like actually really good group utility to be able to throw around like quite a lot of heals, like basically every 20 seconds or so you're healing multiple people in your group for like 15% of your max health, which is probably more like 25% of their max health. This is really good. This is going to go a long way toward giving Brewmaster Monk some much-needed group utility. Other than the stupid monk debuff that's still in the game, I think this is a real winner. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the changes to hero spec, the Shadowpan hero spec, that is, because unfortunately there haven't been any changes to Master of Harmony literally at all. There's no new talents, there's no changes at all. It still suffers from all of the things that really have made it not be that great throughout most of the War Within, and that really is like the way that it works, just on a fundamental level, right? You do damage to build up a buff, then you press the skill, Celestial Brew or Celestial Infusion, and then that activates another buff that allows your damage to start also applying a damage over time effect. It's just like a mail-in rebate level of like disconnection from getting a bonus by speccing into a tree. It's unfortunate because there are so many bonuses in this tree that are awesome. Way of 1,000 Strikes? No, that's not it. Overwhelming Force is a great bonus. Getting a second Celestial Brew or Celestial Infusion is a great bonus. Getting more Purified Stagger out of Mantra of Purity is an amazing bonus. There's a lot of great stuff in the Mastery of Harmony tree, but there's like so much of a disconnect between doing stuff and getting reward from it that just... I think if it weren't a damage over time effect and it were balanced around that, I think it would be good. Or if it didn't have to be tied to Celestial Infusion cast, but just there's one step too many for it to really feel good. Shadowpan, on the other hand, got this huge buff here where when you do damage, you generate flurry charges just like before, but now it's just when you cast Keg Smash, period, you expend all the flurry charges. So I can kind of show that off. I already have, 2 stacks, but let's go ahead and get a couple more hits in here. Alright, 10 flurry charges, and now we hit Keg Smash, and we go absolutely ballistic. So this feels way, 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 way better than it has throughout War Within, where you're limited by the amount of energy expenditure. You have to spend a certain amount of energy in order to throw out all the flurry charges. Now it's just every single time you Keg Smash, no matter what. And this is just obviously like such a huge upgrade, right? Like every single time you press Keg Smash, you are flurry charge, or you're throwing out all the flurry strikes no matter what. Like, as long as you're not lagging out, which I've been doing a little bit of here, you know, you press button, it's flurry time, period. That feels great. The issue here is, of course, that there are so many things in this tree that are still tied to Weapons of Order, or tied to the way that the old system worked, where you have to spend a certain amount of energy in order for the flurry strikes to work. And obviously that's not relevant anymore, and it really just depends on what they tie this to as to whether this is going to be a good tree or not. I think that it's going to wind up still being pretty great. Just the fact that it gives you like a bunch of extra damage out of Keg Smash and I guess Tiger Palm as well, between 1 versus many and efficient training. Like, that's pretty good. Even if it does wind up being tied all to Nizao, since Nizao has a duration and Exploding Keg really doesn't, I think it could still wind up being pretty great, especially if you are getting 30 seconds or so of cooldown reduction on Nizao. That might not be so bad. The only real thing here that's like an uncertainty is just, you know, what do they do with, like, some of these bonuses, like activating every 150 energy during Weapons of Order, you know, things like that are going to be maybe a little bit more of a question mark, but like getting built-in AoE damage every single time you cast Keg Smash, you know, a bunch of extra AoE damage, I should say, is like pretty dope. I think the biggest issue here is this just really puts Master of Harmony in the rearview mirror by comparison. Assuming that Shadowpan works correctly at all by the time it goes live, it's going to be looking pretty great in AoE, in single target, in Raid, and Mythic Plus, and Master of Harmony is really going to need a lot more in the way of buffs in order to keep up, because it has that weird delayed gratification style design. That pretty much covers it. Brewmaster is really promising in Midnight so far. There is a lot of uncertainty, but really this is the most fun I've been having with it since Warlords of Draenor, which is the high watermark for Brewmaster Monk. So things are looking pretty hopeful. We'll just have to keep giving feedback and hoping Blizzard makes good decisions between now and release. And so far the situation's very positive. Things are looking really, really good. It's still October, so it's spooky movie recommendation time once again, and this time we're going with an absolute classic, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Of all the 80s horror movie franchises, A Nightmare on Elm Street is by far our favorite, and I think it's safe to argue it is the best. Great premise, super evil villain, we're both big fans. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and join the Skipping Sleep Studio Discord and become part of our community. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more WoW content, become a channel member, or come boost our Discord. Thanks for watching. Bye.